So I have my CU Buffs like sweatshirt on, and he looks over at me and he goes, "CU, they suck." And I'm like, "Cool, man, cool." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Their offense is the worst in college football." And I'm like, "Okay, so mind you, at the time I'm the offensive coordinator. I'm not the interim head coach. Coach Durrell was still the head coach at that time." And yeah, we weren't good. Sorry. I feel bad. And I didn't say a thing. He was wearing a Pitt State Gorilla, which is where he goes to college now.
Yep.
And I go, "Oh, cool, Pitt State, big college football program, man." Where they play in front of like 1,500 people.
Do I need to give my little disclaimer now?
You just put it on the bottom of the screen.
I might have to get up and attend to stomach issues at any point.
Yeah, you're not. Parker's not. He's not feeling great.
Taco Bell for lunch yesterday is still.
We're still trying to get sponsored by Taco Bell, so let's be careful. Let's be careful.
I don't think it's Taco Bell. I think it's because I went to the Taco Bell in Longmont. Yeah, I went to the one by Regal. That one's kind of.
That one's not good.
That one's a little.
I like
sketch.
that one. It is slow though.
Yeah.
But anyways, you might be out. You might be off your game today.
A little bit. It's fine.
That's why we brought in Gavin.
It just happens.
Godspeed.
It just happens. I'll come with you to help you out. You know, we just gotta take care of this. You know.
Whoa, Gavin was here. He's really got your back. I was like,
I got
he's
you.
holding your place down when you leave. He's like, "I'll go with you." I'm
That's
here
a servant.
for
That's a servant.
Yeah, that took a turn that I wasn't expecting. That was awesome. All right, so you're here.
I am. Against.
I can share it with you.
Yeah.
I shared it. I actually don't know it because it's a bunch of different. Yeah. You know, it's how it goes. Well,
that was a little spoiler alert, but I guess we may as well just dive in now, right?
Nah, no one knows.
Oh, nobody can tell.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Listen, we've watched enough of your stuff to be like, this is a very different intro than some of the other things. You guys rolling with a hot start.
And we're just kind of chilling.
We'll get there. But right now we want to say, hey, what's up to Gavin first.
Oh yeah. What's up, Gavin?
What's up,
Dude, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Senior year at Fred.
Mm-hmm.
Football season is 2 days away.
2 days away. Yes, all summer, all off season for this. I'm excited. Should be dope.
Dubs only.
Dubs only.
Yeah. What is your prediction for this year?
I think we can try to go about 10-0. No, I'm joking. But hopefully, that's where I want to go.
That's the mindset. That's a mindset.
I feel pretty good. I mean, we got a lot of people coming back, a lot of seniors.
Yep.
Good team chemistry. Got my brothers. I got everything.
Yeah.
Good.
It's different. There's something different about this year.
Yeah.
Should be dope, though.
How are you feeling about jumping into is it 4A this year?
4A, yeah.
How are you feeling about that?
Should be good. You know, hopefully I get more, as in me, but the team also to get more recognition, you know, going from 3A to 4A.
Yeah.
Something to prove, you know, like we're kind of like, we're like the black sheep, you know, kind of like we got a little something on us, you know, the dark horse.
Yeah.
So
tell us like maybe something like, hey, when you look back at summer, this was your favorite part of summer.
Oh.
When you weren't doing football and
because we're what 2?
We're like 2-3 weeks into school.
2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks in school. I gotta say, I did. Besides football, I did go up to Lake McConaughey and go chill out for a week.
I've heard great things about this place.
It's so awesome. It was
I
amazing.
need to go sometime.
Yeah, I was able to go boating and everything. It was dope.
That's awesome.
Are you a big boat guy, Parker?
Listen, I can do little boat, like I can do canoes and kayaks, or I could probably do like a cruise ship. The last time I was on a boat that was like big, medium sized, was in Hawaii, and I threw up off the side of it and was miserable for like hours. So no, I don't do boats.
I was also like, man, little boat, like that would also.
I
make
bet
me
you.
laugh.
I bet you I could do like
both-
a little speedboat.
Okay, I was like, we're just both big guys, so just.
Yeah.
I just then was like me and you in a little like kayak trying to.
No, I could do something that can like pulls like a tube, like one of those.
Oh,
kinds of
okay.
boats.
Yeah.
I could be good on that.
That's fun. Well, everyone, welcome back to the Rocky Students Podcast. It is 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
It's early.
And right now you're doing great.
Yeah, thank you.
You're not doing so great. I'm doing a little bit better than you.
I got a big old Topo Chico to help me out, though.
Yeah.
This is large.
You're a big dude, and that is
Topo.
That looks large.
It's like a liter? No.
Yeah.
Only 17 ounces.
Yeah. Okay. But as always, we always want to remind you that we do this podcast to try to inspire joy and purpose in you, and we want to highlight someone who has a platform that they're using for his purpose. So we're going to jump into our intro, all right? You're a quarterback at Frederick.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of quarterbacks, our guest today is a former Boise State Broncos quarterback. That's my hometown. You know my roots. He's coached for 18 years in college football on teams such as Notre Dame, Boise State, Western Kentucky, Stanford, Colorado University, Minnesota. The list does go on. But you can catch him as a media personality on Altitude Sports, currently covering all things Denver Broncos, along with many other sports teams. His greatest legacy is his family of 3 kids and a wonderful wife, Anne-Marie. This dude also loves Jesus. ChatGPT said, Coach Mike, big energy, Sanford, has gone from calling plays to calling out hot takes as he brings the same fire to the mic that he did to the field. You might know him for his signature motto, joy on 3, win on 6. Joy gets the party started, and winning closes the deal. Can you please welcome Big Energy Mike to the podcast?
Let's go. Let's go.
Hey, we're so glad you're here. Welcome, Big Energy Mike.
That's good. No, you're fine.
Yeah, I was like, your hair looks really good. So
I don't want to mess that.
You got a bunch
lettuce.
going on
Lettuce is
today.
on point right now. So yeah, even got a little salad dressing in there today. You know,
Come on.
Does look
more of a
pretty good.
salad situation than just
Come
pure
on.
raw lettuce.
No, I get
The
it.
ChatGPT, like, so how did that work?
I give it a little bit of prompts. I'm like, man, this is his Instagram bio. I said, do you know Mike Sanford? And it's like, yeah.
Dang.
It knows about you.
ChatGPT.
So
Did
why
knows
should
who you are.
ChatGPT say, well, then you're kind of a big deal?
I
Definitely
just said,
not.
I literally just said, give him a nickname, and that it came up with Big Energy Mike.
There we go. I'm going to take it and roll with it.
Yeah,
That's a good nickname.
Biggie Mike.
That's a good nickname.
There were
You
some
gotta
others
get
that weren't so great, so we'll just leave those in the dust.
Funny enough, so I coached my daughter's softball team. They're 8th graders, 7th graders. And, it was kind of my first coaching gig, after being a college football coach, coaching rec softball. And we were the Savages. That was our name.
Nice.
And I had a little playlist of music that we played, and big energy was always on there. So
Hey, it works.
coincidence, Matt?
It
I
knows
think
you
not.
well.
I think
That's
not.
scary.
That's so funny.
No, that's good. Today my wife was like, "Hey, can you tell Mike that he's a lot bigger in person than I thought he was going to be?"
Did your wife just call me fat?
No. Like,
Taller?
I think she thought you might have been like 5'6".
Oh yeah. A lot of these coaches, man, college coaches, you're shocked either way.
Yeah.
Because you see them like, they have a perception. I'm trying to think of somebody who would be like, do you remember Jim Tressel, who won a national championship at Ohio State?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like tiny, like
Yeah.
small human being. And you'd
funny.
think he'd have this, because he had a big aura about him.
Yeah.
He's like, I met him in person, Mike. Hey, coach. The old 45-degree angle down handshake. Got that one cooked up. Yeah.
That's really good, dude. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you were a junior. That are you named after your dad?
Yeah, so it's confusing. So my dad, he is Michael Charles Sanford.
Okay.
And then I am Michael, and then I'm named after both my now deceased grandfathers.
Okay.
Michael Gunnar William Sanford.
Okay.
So technically not a
Okay.
junior.
Yeah.
But I got kind of the moniker of junior because you would know this, like Rivals.com, 247.
Yeah.
They, my dad and I were both coaching, ironically, in the same state and recruiting the same players because he was the offensive coordinator at Louisville. I
Okay.
was the quarterback coach at Western Kentucky. This is like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, like, if we were recruiting and offered the same guy and we're competing against each other,
Oh.
they assign a coach to that recruit on 247 and on Rivals, and then they track like the coach and who they have as commits, and they couldn't have just Mike Sanford and Mike Sanford, so they just slapped a junior
just
on
did
there.
a junior and
and
senior.
then I've just been kind of living with it for the last several years. But funny enough, is I started off my coaching career as working for my dad.
Okay.
So that was at UNLV. My dad was the head coach.
Okay.
And of course, he's the boss, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so my dad was definitely not going by anything but Mike Sanford. So I was in the building, and of course, everybody, players, coaches, everybody on the staff, and in the building called me Junior or Junebug.
Yeah.
And at first, like the first week or two, I'm like, I'm not a junior, okay? Different middle name. I'm not a junior. Well, you fast forward to 2017, 2018, my dad's last 2 years coaching college football, and I'm the boss now. And he's on my staff. So he went with senior. So yeah, I was he's Mike Sanford senior.
I love
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
Power plays.
That's good. Hey, talking about big energy, I don't know if this will come up naturally, so I have to say, when I first met Mike,
we're gonna go 9 square,
dude, kill ball.
Dude,
so he rolled into Rocky Students one night to pick up his daughter Peyton, and
which simply put, this game is you play with the volleyball, hit it 3 times, spike it in the middle, which there's a group of people.
There's a group of people, and you're basically, it's called kill ball. You're trying to hit them.
It's essentially a gratuitous violent game.
There
you go.
Yeah.
And at the point, we had some high schoolers playing, but it was right around the time we started getting some middle school interest in the game. And I will never forget the look of fear on this 6th grade boy's eyes when Mike Sanford goes up for the spike. He said, and thankfully it missed him. But
I did end up getting, I think, a middle school girl in the face with the spike.
Yeah.
she did cry.
Yeah, it was
worth
probably one of my athletic lowlights.
Lowlights.
I've had a few of them, but that was
You're like,
definitely-
I'm getting off work. We just did
That
a
was
lot.
up there.
I need to have some fun. There was another dude I remember. You smoked him right in the face.
Oh,
I can't
yeah.
remember if he had glasses, and it was like, listen, you build character in this game. Mike shows up. He's helping you just figure out how to build character.
Yeah, it was interesting. I showed up to Rocky Students, to pick up my daughter, and she loves it, right? So she always, I think the official pickup is 8:30.
Yeah.
But everybody stays till 9:07.
Yeah.
And playing all the different games, right? So, the first time I came at 8:30. I'm like texting Peyton. She's now a freshman at Erie High School, and texting her, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm here." Nothing, right? About 5 minutes later, we got to go. I'm here. She's like, finally texting me back, "Dad, I'm playing games." So then I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go play games."
Yes.
So I just jumped in. Started with it's 9 square, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I showed up for the 9 square, and I ended up staying for the kill ball. That's really the way it went
That's
down.
the story of Rocky Students. I
Yes.
feel like for a lot of people.
That's one of those moments where you're like, yep, he's built different. Now I understand why you
got
were
some
able to
big
play
energy.
in college. He's big energy.
At the time, I was coaching CU.
Probably
Wednesday
just getting
nights. So in the football schedule world, typically Mondays, Tuesdays, we're working till midnight.
Yeah.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday at night. Just heavy game plan. By the time you get to Wednesday night, your game plan's done.
Yeah.
So it's fine tuning, getting your call sheets ready. Thursday's date night, so you're out right after practice. So I started because I had fun that one time. I started making it a priority to get all my work done so that I could beeline from Boulder straight into Rocky Students and get some joy in my life because there wasn't a lot of joy around that season.
Well, I just remembered this story. So there was a moment where you guys were playing 9 square or something, and
Good old Kael
one of our students.
The Kael's
Do you remember this moment?
Oh, I remember vividly. Oh yeah.
I mean, you're like, I maybe went to counseling. Okay, the story was that you guys are playing, and I think you were in the middle square, and everyone's trying to get you out, and something happens.
It got a little competitive. It was getting
real
spicy.
competitive. And it was. I mean, we're here for it. And do you remember what Kael said?
I'm sure you remember what.
Do you remember what he said?
So I'm wearing. I was coaching. Drove straight from the office.
And Kael has no idea who you are. He thinks you're a dad,
Right.
Which you are.
I'm that.
He's Peyton's dad.
Yeah. So I beeline straight from Boulder. So I have my coaching attire on, but everything else in Colorado, football facility, you don't see anybody besides your players and your fellow coaches,
right?
Because it's just football only in Folsom, right? And so we would wear a sweatshirt, a hoodie, maybe some joggers, right? So technically I could be anybody,
right?
It's not like
especially in Colorado, everybody wears.
I don't have my headsets on and a whistle and and the coach's polo and pleated slacks on, right? I mean, I just look like a normal guy. And it was before wearing Colorado stuff was cool. Okay.
Does senior wear pleated slacks?
Big pleats guy.
Okay.
Actually, a couple of my friends call me Coach Slacks because they love the pictures, especially from the mid 2000s of me wearing pleated slacks.
Heck yeah.
Big wide open bottoms. So I roll in. playing 9 square. It gets competitive. And Kael, what's Kael's sister's name? Morgan. They're competitive.
Oh yeah.
And it's almost like I felt I met my match. So there were too many alphas inside of that 9 square apparatus, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I got serious. Like I was getting emotionally hijacked a little bit.
As you should.
By a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
No less.
And my daughter's kind of like semi-embarrassed of me, but kind of she's like looking around. I think my dad's cool. I don't know, right? And it gets competitive to the point where start talking a little bit, right?
Oh, yeah.
So me and Kael kind of going back and forth. I'd never met Kael. This is like my first time being around him. So I have my CU Buffs like sweatshirt on. And he looks over at me and he goes, CU, they suck. And I'm like, cool, man, cool. He goes, yeah. He goes, their offense is the worst in college football. And I'm like, okay, so mind you, at the time, I'm the offensive coordinator. I'm not the interim head coach. Coach Durrell was still the head coach at that time. And yeah, we weren't good. Sorry. I feel bad. And I didn't say a thing. He was wearing a Pitt State Gorilla, which is where he goes to college now.
Yep.
And I go, oh, cool, Pitt State, big college football program, man. Where they play in front of like 1,500 people, like just going right back at him,
going at him.
Oh yeah, it was on, right. So, so then like the game gets more spicy, more competitive, more talking, and I was I was really, really internally upset because I thought he knew I was the offensive coordinator at CU. And that's like the worst thing you do when you're working 120-hour weeks.
Yeah.
And some 17-year-old snotty-nosed kid tells you that your team, not just your team sucks, your offense. Like I'm like, he knows who I am, and he attacked me.
Yeah.
Like this is like what happens on social media when you get attacked by fans, which happens all the time as a coordinator or head coach.
This is why I'm off social media.
Yeah,
Social
I'm like, I got off social media because of dudes like this. So then, it's bothering me, right? And I'm like, so Peyton sees this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Peyton's pissed, like at him, and at Morgan. Just Morgan catching strays
by association.
By association, right? Morgan didn't say a thing. Which awesome kid. Kael not so much at the time. So then we're leaving, Peyton and I, and I'm steaming. Like I am hot.
Yeah.
I'm walking out, and I told Peyton, I go, what's up with that kid? And she's like, I don't know. He's like a junior, senior, and I'm like, he's kind of a bully. So
just so mean.
So I see him in the on our way to the car. I see him right out here in the parking lot, and I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna go talk to him.
Yeah.
And I just said, hey, I'm sorry what I said about Pitt State, but my daughter's with me. I coach football at CU. I'm the offensive coordinator. Kael turned into a freaking ghost. Just color flushes out of his face, white.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm so sorry. I had no idea that you coached there. And I'm like, dude, I totally thought you thought that you knew. I thought you knew that I was the offensive coordinator. It didn't make any sense because, frankly, our defense was way worse than our offense that year. So why are you coming at the offense if you don't know that I'm the offensive coordinator? Yeah. And then from that, it's so funny. I started seeing Kael at things, and at first he's kind of avoiding me. And then we kind of became pals.
Yeah.
There you go.
And the best part about it is his mom, who works at the church. Name real quick.
Heather.
Yeah. Best. Awesome.
Yeah.
The first time she saw me, it was actually at a Rocky roundtable, one of those leadership roundtable events that Sean Moyers put together. She came up to me. She's like, I am so sorry. And I just laughed. And even to this day, that was 2+ years ago.
Yeah.
About 2 years ago on the dot. And every time I see her, we have a good laugh about it. It's that happened.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
We love Kael. He also.
What do they?
he felt. I have not seen him feel worse.
Did he talk to you about it or no?
Yeah. Well, yes. That Sunday, he was like, "Did you hear what happened?"
Yeah. Everybody. So many people were like, "Did you hear what Kael did? Did you hear what Kael did?"
Yeah.
And
so
then
I
he was
started
like,
spreading rumors. Yeah. It was great.
The hard part about it is, I considered leaving this church because of Kael. I'm just kidding.
That'll do it.
No,
Hurt people.
When you're compensated as when you're way overpaid as a Division I college football coach, which is true, way overpaid.
Yeah.
It comes with the territory. Even though Kael didn't have the intent of it, like you catch. Your life is about catching strays. Basically, unless you're undefeated and you ran 3 trick plays and scored 48 points a game, you pretty much suck at your job, according to the public.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of it comes with the territory.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Gavin, you're welcome to jump in with any questions.
Okay.
If you got one, you can go for a rip. Otherwise, I got one for Mike.
I got one.
Okay.
So I've seen that you've been like at a lot of places. Where's been your favorite place to like live in?
Indiana, baby. Indiana, baby. Come on.
What's funny is my childhood. So my dad was a coach.
Yeah.
So people look like maybe at my bio or Wikipedia page, which is hilarious. It's got like the funniest picture ever of me. I look like a total dweeb. I'm not a big Wikipedia guy.
Right.
And if you look at my bio, that's just my coaching side. That's like since I've actually been an adult. But there was 22 years that preceded that where my dad was in the same industry, and I made all those moves. And so I was born in Lexington, Virginia. My dad coached at Virginia Military Institute. I moved when I was 6 months old. Never been back. Don't really know what my birthplace looks like. And then we kind of ping-ponged, ironically, between Southern California in Indiana, of all places. So my dad coached at Long Beach State, left and went to Purdue. And I was young, but I remember it. It was like 6, 7, 8, 9, right in there. And then he goes to USC, 8 years in Southern California. After middle of my freshman year, he gets hired at Notre Dame. So we moved to Northern Indiana. And then come back to my dad for my middle of my junior year, finish up my senior year of high school. He goes to the San Diego Chargers, but then my dad sacrificed and drove 2 hours a day, commuted 2 hours a day, woke up like 3:30, 4 in the morning so that I could finish out at the same high school I had started out my freshman year. So to your point, I actually love Indiana. I do. I think our family's favorite place that we lived from a college football standpoint it was Notre Dame. But just big picture wise, Colorado, straight up. It's what I loved, like the beach culture, mountain culture of the West Coast, right? Being in California, went to college in Boise, Idaho. Love that. Just even when I was playing, I was getting 20, 25 days a year in up at Bogey Space and snowboarding, shredding the gnar. But we also love like the family part of living in the Midwest. Like we love our neighborhood. We love like family values, like simple life. And we kind of felt like, especially here in Fred, here in, I always call it east of I-25. I think it's where it's at. Just personally, everybody told me not to move east of I-25 when I got hired at CU. And I'm like, you know what? I'm a counterculture dude. I'm moving east of I-25. So I did. And we loved it. It's almost like the Midwest meets the West Coast, like right here. Right here east of I-25. You get west of I-25, it's a little too West Coast. But east of I-25, like it's the perfect blend of being able to get up to the mountains, being able to, our family loves the mountains. We get up there as much as we can. But we also love like simple life, like good neighborhoods, good people, hardworking people. Whereas you're living in Orange County, California, where I grew up, a little different, right?
A little different, yeah.
It's a little bit, it's a little bit more of a status lifestyle, and that's not my jam. So,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, I love Colorado.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
I was gonna try to do this from memory, but I'm not going to because it blew my mind when I'm like, okay, you've been covering the Broncos practice. You just hit up Wyoming last week or a couple days ago. I saw you just did another episode of Ball Talk recently, which is I like that. Again, grew up in Boise
State,
area.
A little shout out for the homeland.
Good. You guys are dropping like 8 podcasts a week with Dempsey and Company.
Yep.
You made it to church this Sunday.
Yeah, it was good.
And you just said there was another one, Coach on the Couch.
Coach on the Couch?
Yeah, launched a new YouTube channel.
Nice. Just follow me on TikTok. I saw it.
Yeah, so it's awesome. So working at Altitude Sports Radio, I've been just kind of trying to knock the door down and just get in, because I love this space. And this isn't something that's completely random, because when I was a kid, I used to tell my dad, this is like 8, 9, 10 years old, that I wanted to play as long as I could, coach as long as I could, and then immediately get into broadcasting. or politics. So like my two like role models were John Madden, played, coached, got into broadcasting, was a total goat.
Yeah.
At the time, like I was a young kid, and John Madden was still like calling games and doing all the things.
Yeah.
Or I wanted to be Tom Osborne from Nebraska, who coached the Huskers forever, and then he's all of a sudden I think he's a House of Representatives, congressman or senator for a bunch of years for the state of Nebraska. So I was a poli-sci major at Boise State. Nice. I was really into politics, like heavily into politics, until I got into coaching, and then I was so busy that I would only check in on politics probably every couple months. And about the last 10 years, 15 years, I was like, I don't want to be a part of that. That world is nasty. Yeah. It's an ugly world. It's like not what I recognized from my childhood of politics on all sides. Like I'm just, I don't want to associate with that necessarily. So I was kind of how the altitude thing happened is Nuggets run was kind of starting to go down. The championship run, and that was right, like that season was kind of starting out right as I was finding out I was getting let go at CU. And so we were, one of our neighbors that built our house that we moved into here in Fred, they have awesome seats at Nuggets games, and I think like they're also huge CU fans, awesome supporters. And they just reached out because they kind of knew I was, you get fired, it's not a great spot, right? So they reached out and like, hey, we'd love to give you these seats. They're floor seats, floor, like right next to, like when Jokic checks in, he sits like 3 feet from you. That's like just on the bench, like sprawled out, 6'11", just awesome. So I took my kids. So Peyton, Gunnar, and Griffin got to go. That was their first NBA game.
Nice.
And they were in, especially the boys. Like they were like, I'm a Nuggets fan. Of course you are. You sat 4 seats, your first NBA game, right? Yeah. And so we got really into the Nuggets. We got really into that year. And so I've always listened to sports talk radio, no matter what place I've lived. And I started listening to Altitude because they're affiliated with the Nuggets, right? So you see the games on TV, Vic Lombardi, and he's the pregame show, and Scott Hastings is on the color commentary on it. Yeah. He's a sports talk show host for Altitude. Well, so I was listening, and I decided to take my boys to the Western Conference Finals. We bought nosebleed seats against the Lakers, and the Lakers, it was my hometown team growing up. I grew up a Lakers fan, and then I fell out of love with Lakers like big time. Post Kobe, post Shaq, I was done. Like I'm like, I'm not down with this LeBron game. Yeah, it ain't my thing. So we end up going to that game, and I heard on Altitude that they were going to do a live broadcast pregame show from Brooklyn's, which is like the restaurant bar that's in the parking lot there at Ball Arena. So I'm like, I took just me and my boys. I'm like, hey, we're going to go meet the Altitude Sports Talk Radio guys. And I was like, this is going to be awesome. Well, this is a show that I've been listening to for the last several months is Crackman and Lindahl. And we just show up, when you go to these live broadcasts, and I've done a bunch of them now recently, you think it's going to be like there's a crowd around listening to the broadcast. Nobody could care less about what the broadcast is. Everybody's just doing their thing, at the bar, doing all the stuff. And so there's no place for me to sit. I'm like, this is awkward, right? And I'd never really seen this side of sports. I've always been coaching. So I walk by, I feel weird. And all of a sudden there's a voice that's like, Coach. And it was actually one of the two guys that's on air. And I didn't really recognize him at the time, but it was Andy Lindahl. And I didn't put two and two together. That was the sideline reporter for the CU games. So when I was the interim head coach, I do an interview with him every halftime, post game. Right, fresh reaction right off of the second quarter and the end of the game. And he's like, "How you doing, man?" He's like, "Hey, I've been thinking about you. I've been trying to track down your number. I wanted to reach out to you, see how you're doing." And he told me, he's like, "You were the most gracious head coach." I was an interim head coach that I've worked with in terms of no matter what, you were going to give me an interview. If you were down by 35, if you'd just gotten beat, you were going to be a professional. You were going to treat me right. And I just want to let you know I respected it. And then number two, Mark Johnson, who's the voice of the Buffs on, for the radio side, the two of us said that you would be perfect in the media space. And he's like, "I'd love to talk to you about being a guest on my show." And so sure enough, I did that. I was a guest on his show. And then I started being a kind of more of a continual guest on Crackman and Lindahl. And then I got asked to be on the air, like on site in studio. It was also a remote broadcast, and I was doing that. And it was funny. So very first time I did, I was really nervous. My wife and kids came to the restaurant that we were doing it out in Parker, and I was praying about it. I'm like, oh, I hope I sound okay. Mm-hmm. I hope I, can, carry, at least not sound like an idiot. And I got on. So there's this remote broadcast. There was actually kind of some fans around, some people that are not of me, of Altitude Sports Radio. And I noticed that one of the guys that was like an executive for the radio station, right when I sat down to go on air, he left to go in his car, which was really interesting. And I'm like, well, what's he doing? And go through 2 segments. That's all I had was basically 40 minutes of live radio. And I'm a guest, right? But I'm doing it from, on set. I see that same executive come back after I'm done. I'm sitting down eating dinner with my family. He said, I went out to my car to see what you sounded like on air. And I wanted to hear it. He's like, you sound great. Yeah. And then from then on, it's just kind of been growing as opportunities arise. And I love what I do. It's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. It's awesome. Wow. That's really cool. What stood out to me in that story, which is just a really fun story, but what made me think of what might have been one of your hardest seasons in coaching at CU. The record was tough. You got to have a really fun, the only win that year, when you got to shift into the interim, right? Hey, listen, this place over here, anyone who was a CU fan was hyped. Yeah. Like, we're like, all right, we got the one.
It was like the perfect timing for a win, too.
Exactly.
Because it was Parents Weekend, which is a huge deal at CU. Yeah. Like, when the team's not good, that's like the only sellout. It was like a sellout versus Kael.
Mm-hmm. But what I also heard is like, dude, that season was rough, and you had the character or the I don't even just who you are to be like, I'm still going to show up and do an interview no matter what the game was. That probably wasn't your favorite thing to like lean into a hard conversation, acknowledging what's going on, being a realist. And in one of your hardest seasons, it served you well a year later or so, to where people were like, hey, the way that you treated me when you're going through a really hard time, it has now got me to a place of like, that's someone that I want to hang out with. That's someone who I want to work with. So I just want to just honor you in your character of like, that was a real tough season. And it's really fun to see where how you showed up in that difficult season is now benefiting the future where you're currently at, kind of post this current,
No, I appreciate that. And I think that's like, first off, like there's been times in my life where I wasn't great. And then it comes back to bite you later, right? And so, and I think that the busiest time of my life was being a head coach, being a coordinator, different times. So I was a head coach at Western Kentucky. It's been about 7-8 years. And then kind of, we moved like almost every year after that, just trying to get your footing back, and you're busy. And so I'm a horrific text back guy. Like I'm the worst text back guy in history, especially when I'm really busy, because I just don't have the bandwidth. Like it's like hours and your attention is so focused on your job, and then anything else that you have time for, it's your family, right? So that's come back to bite me in the butt. Like people will be like, dude, you like totally blew me off for 2 years. Like people that were really good friends of mine, and people that probably could help me out. So like there are 2 sides of it, and I have been on both sides of it. That's a good example with Andy Lindahl, and there's plenty of examples of the opposite. And to that point, like just kind of advice is you just never know who's watching. You never know in any situation. Like I think, you being a high school athlete, having the desire, you even said it in the intro, to get more exposure, right? Man, you just never know when that exposure comes. And oftentimes it's like when you don't think it's going to come. It's like I think a lot of high school athletes, they think that it's all about these major, say in softball or baseball, it's like about these huge national tournaments. That's the only time that somebody's going to watch you. And you have, and I've actually gone to some of those tournaments to support like friends of mine and their kids. And it's amazing how those parents and those kids, all they do while they're playing is watch the coaches' reactions. And actually, believe it or not, those coaches are watching you watch them, and that's a negative. Because they want to see that you're about the ball. You're about football. You're about softball. And I think sometimes too in football, everybody thinks that it's about like, oh, I'm going to go to the CSU camp or I'm going to go to the CU camp, and that's going to be my big moment to get exposure. Those things are just inundated with thousands of players. Dude, you can barely get an evaluation when you're on the coaching side. There's so many people. A lot of times it's like when I would come out to a practice as a recruiting coach, and I'm just out there. Sometimes I'd even show up in 30 minutes. I wouldn't even let the kids see me. Like I'd be like kind of hiding behind a bleacher, not creeping, but just I want to see what your work habits are when you don't know I'm there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's a lot of time. Like when I went and evaluated recruits and made a decision, should I say that this kid's offer worthy or not? Oftentimes I would go and I wouldn't, the high school coach is always going to say the kid's awesome. He's got great character. I'd walk around the school. I'd ask different people. Like I'm talking, the lunch lady, or the lunch dude. I'd go ask like fellow students. Like I would walk around the campus, and be like, "Hey, do you know Kael?" Like, yeah, Kael's a jerk, man. Talks all kinds of smack. No, I'm just totally joking about that. But you just never know who's watching, and you never know when your opportunity is going to be, and you also never know when something's going to either pay you forward or it's going to come back to haunt you. And so I don't say that from the standpoint of like, like being judgmental or anything like that, but like as a coach, when you're evaluating players, you want to know who the person is really. Not who the person is just on game day or just when the coach shows up or just at a camp, because everybody's going to put their best foot forward. Everybody puts their good smiley face on. And I think it's a really good lesson to learn, especially for aspiring athletes, but also for people, right? Like whatever you want to go into, I think about Parker. Parker, I think when I first met you, kind of an intern, right? Mm-hmm. And dude, you're omnipresent. You're everywhere. You are. You're up there, when you first started, you weren't up there on the stage on the worship team, but you were doing it with students. You were doing audio and tech stuff everywhere. You were serving this church in this body any way that you could. And now all of a sudden you're call it is, you're a superstar now, right? I mean, you are. But it's not because he just showed up one day. He's like, I'm the man. Watch me. No, he just showed up, kept showing up, kept serving, and people notice that type of stuff, and it pays off.
That's good. If you're dating out there, you gave some great dating advice too, of like, hey, find out who that person is when you're not around.
Oh, for sure.
So if you're like, I don't care about football, but I like to date, it's some good wisdom right there. I think of Gavin, and you've gone to a couple camps.
Yeah.
Which ones have you gone to so far this year?
I've gone to CSU Pueblo. I went to School of Mines. I went to NDSU. I went to one in Weber State, and I went to a couple other ones, but those were the couple big ones.
Okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love that. I think that's so smart. Those camps that you mentioned, like CSU Pueblo, there weren't 2,000 kids there, were there?
No, there was. They got to see me. It was great.
Yep.
I tried to go to the camps that they showed interest in me, and they kept talking to me, and I was like, okay, I'll try to make it out to there. Instead of like somewhere too big where I would know it was going to be just another person there.
And that's more advice I give for young athletes, and also, I just say whatever it is that you want to get into is like, there's no job too big, no job too small, right? And same thing with an athlete. There's no college that's too big. You never know. Like don't confine yourself necessarily, but on the flip side, don't think that because it's CSU Pueblo, that's a great program. They've won a ton of games. You can get great exposure, and especially now in this portal era, which I hate, but it's a reality. If you're the best player on CSU Pueblo, and then you're the best player in the RMAC, probably somebody's gonna knock your door down trying to get you to transfer to their school. Whether you go or not, that's a personal decision. But man, you get discovered no matter how, and it's just open up all doors that you can, go through them, and just see what God does.
For sure.
That's cool.
That's great advice.
I wasn't planning on saying this, but before I asked you to come hang out with us, I asked some people like, hey, what do you know about Gavin? What's he like at school? I did a little bit of like the coaching thing, because I think, we care a lot about who sits in that chair, and I want to be like, all right, there is the typical athletes who they can be one person here, and then also they're like, making fun of people on the side or doing different. And so I did go out
talking trash to a Power 5 coordinator. But what I respect about Kael's game though he did it in the church.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh,
so
yeah.
like, hey, if you're going to be a trash talker, do it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kael.
Yeah,
And I did my fair share of trash talking too. Now,
Hey,
just
we're here for it. But I will just say, like, credit to you of, before even this conversation of, hey, you don't always know who's watching. If any coach is like, hey, I'm watching this because I'm interested in Gavin. Man, my recruiting so far has been like, yeah, he's a quality character, and so it's been fun to as I've talked with people that have had good things to say about you, but that wisdom is so key. As I think about Gavin and where he's sitting, and there's gonna be other people like him who are trying to get to that next level. There were some things even as you were sharing of like, here's some do's and don'ts. Don't go to that 2,000 person camp. Hit up the more ones where you aren't just a number. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that you would maybe for Gavin or other people watching that you're like, man, as a coach who's been here, these are my like top 5 tricks and tips. Maybe it's not 5, but there's a couple that you're like, if you aren't doing this, really, this is what you really should do just to give you a good foundation. Yeah. And I know it's everyone has a different story. I know that we're just assuming there is some level of talent here. I don't know if there's any ways you're like, these are some ways I'd go.
Yeah.
And I know there's so much that you could go with. Like my story is I literally walked on like 3 years after playing high school basketball and got a scholarship. That's like you can't give someone direction on that story.
Yeah.
Right. And so I understand that everyone's gonna have a different deal, but what from the big energy Mike, what would you
Yeah, so you're going into your senior year.
Hey,
right?
we'll sign off saying like if anyone follows these rules, it doesn't mean you guaranteed to get.
No.
Yeah,
it's just all about putting your best foot forward. And there's a John Wooden quote. It came from one of John Wooden's many amazing books, and it was hung up in our facility at Notre Dame. So we walk by it every single day, and it kind of finally started to reverberate with me as I was coaching there. The quote is, "Don't mistake activity for achievement." Okay, so I think how it relates to your generation, one of the biggest misnomers in, I'd say, the athletic space is that like privatized coaching. So, in the quarterback world, if I go spend this amount of money with this coach, then I'll get a scholarship. So I think that activity is not a bad thing, right? Mm-hmm. Activity is good. Like going to work with a coach, at whatever these quarterback gurus are, it's activity.
For sure.
Right? And I think in your generation in particular, I think this is so true about this activity versus achievement space, and it lives in social media. Okay, let me explain. So I think young players in all sports, they think that posting a video of them working in a one-on-one setting and then getting a lot of likes is achievement. Mm-hmm. It's not. It's activity. What achievement is, and frankly, if I'm going to be just really nuts and bolts about like the evaluation process, achievement's what you do on game day. Your film is your resume. Your playing film is your resume. All that other stuff, to be really honest, like we don't watch it as coaches. Yeah. Like we don't. Those are your peers that are watching it.
Yeah, totally.
And is your is the 8th grade kid that looks up to you going to offer you a scholarship because they watched your video? No. Mm-hmm. But is that a good opportunity? It is activity, and it is a good opportunity to to be somebody that can be inspirational to that kid. So it's not bad that you're doing these. And I'm saying, I don't know if you do the videos or not.
I definitely do a little bit.
Yeah,
it's okay. But I hear what you're saying.
Totally fine. I think this generation looks at social media engagement, especially in the athletic space, even in the influencer space, as achievement. And they measure how many likes, how many views, all that stuff as achievement. I've even heard from athletes that they have these recruiting websites, and I'm not talking about Rivals and 247, but these companies that you pay a monthly fee or an annual fee to get your name out there. And then you get to see who opened up like emails, what coaches across the country opened up emails. Like I had hundreds, maybe thousands of emails at my CU, at my Western Kentucky, at my Notre Dame email account. And a lot of times I just clicked on the email so I didn't have the unread icon on there. Mm-hmm. And that would tell that kid, hey, this coach is interested in you. And I had times where, or if you get likes, like, so if a coach likes your Instagram or likes your Twitter post, oh, that coach is interested in me. Like I would sometimes actually intentionally like kids that I wasn't going to recruit because I wanted my competitors to think I was going to offer them, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on. What real achievement is exactly where you're at. So you're at Frederick High School. You're getting ready for a big season for, you guys are not the Warriors anymore, the Golden Eagles, right?
Yeah, Golden Eagles.
So you're getting ready for a big football season for the Golden Eagles in your senior year, correct?
Yeah.
That's where your feet are. Right, your feet aren't on the internet space. The best thing for you is put really good film together. And how do you do that? Don't put pressure on yourself on game day. Put pressure on yourself every single day in practice, because your practice habits, they become what you do on game day, and then that shows up, and that's your best foot forward. So I think there's so much confusion this day and age about what activity is, and I would put that in that social media camp from what achievement is, and that's like when it really matters. Like, what do you look like? What do you play like? And so that'd be my biggest advice.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
coming from one of my favorite coaches and the greatest college football team potentially ever, Boise State Broncos.
Boise State Broncos.
Because if you don't know, you need to watch it. Like, go Google Boise State versus Oklahoma 2007.
Yep.
You were there.
I was not.
You weren't there?
That was okay. So my last season as a player was 2004. And then my first season as a coach was 2014, and I was just there 1 year. But I did coach in the so Boise State's been frankly like kind of a 10-year drought from national significance, and it was 2014 was the last Fiesta Bowl that Boise State won.
Okay.
And that was Jay Ajayi was our running back.
Yeah.
So I was coaching in 2007 at Stanford.
Okay, so we had a conversation at one point in time. You played with Zabransky.
Yeah, he beat me out.
His first year then?
Yep. So he was a sophomore. I was a senior.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. He beat me out.
Either
So
way.
he was, we had a really close-knit quarterback room.
Yep.
Zabransky and actually a guy who played in the NFL for, I think, 7-8 years as a different position was a quarterback. His name was Legadu Nane.
That's crazy.
And he played for the Chargers. He was a tight end, that kind of H-back, big receiver.
Yeah.
They were both came in as freshmen, and I was two classes ahead of them. There was a really good starting quarterback. You probably remember Ryan Dinwiddie that played my first 4 years actually. And then my fifth year, senior year, it was a full-on competition between me and Jared Zabransky. Legadu Nane ended up switching positions, which is beneficial for him because he's made a ton of money playing those other positions. And it was a real battle. Like it was probably one of the hardest athletic times of my career because, I'd been the guy that'd been there for 5 years, right?
Yeah, totally.
Totally grinded it out. Played a bunch, like as a backup, as a third stringer. Was the holder on field goals and extra points. So I was a part of the team. I was a signaler, so I made sure Connor Stallions couldn't get any eyes on my signals from the Michigan scandal. If you haven't watched that, that's pretty good.
It's on it's on my wife's playlist.
Yeah, it came out today.
Okay. You already watched it?
I watched like the first half hour.
Okay.
Wife and I were pretty fired up to watch it. It's right up our alley. But so I competed. They let the competition for that job in 2004 go all the way up to, they didn't even publicly announce it until the opening kickoff, Boise State versus the Idaho Vandals. They didn't announce like who the starting quarterback was publicly until that moment. And they had told me and Jared about 6 days before the game. And that was hard, man.
Yeah, totally.
But the coolest thing is they ended up going with the younger player. Say it was like dead even. Even if I had like maybe a little bit of an edge up, just experience-wise and all that, they went with the younger player. He's a redshirt sophomore because of the long-term investment in his career and for the program. And 2 years later, I'm watching as now a fan, coaching at another school. But, my alma mater, I'm watching Boise State with Jared Zabransky as the starting quarterback in his 5th year, beat the Oklahoma Sooners and Adrian Peterson. And probably, it is the best college football game of all time.
Yeah.
You have the Statue of Liberty, you have the hook and ladder, and then you have after the Statue of Liberty, you have Ian Johnson, the running back who I played with as well. You have him go in, like chuck the ball into the stands, seek out his girlfriend at the time, who was a cheerleader at Boise State, and then proposed to her on national television.
I didn't know that. I've seen the play, but
you got to go
crazy.
watch that, man. It's on YouTube.
Yep.
It's so crazy, man. Just looking back at it now, it looks like it's in like 1950. It looks so old when you see the TV quality.
I was like, it was not that long.
No, man, but it's 17 years ago, man. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's cool. You can always play the card of like, hey, the people who paved the road for the the younger players.
Oh yeah,
that's a good card you can.
No, it's awesome, and you know what's funny is when I lost that starting job, and you're gonna play college football wherever it may be, it'll be great, but you might win the starting job, you might not, right? You might get switch another position, you just never know, right? But what I did is, and right now it's kind of a hot topic with Jarrett Stidham, losing the starting job to Bo Nix, and both of them had a reaction. I'm talking about Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham. And Stidham actually said all the right things for the majority of his post-game interview just this past Sunday after the preseason game 3. He's like, yeah, I'm going to be a support for Bo Nix. I'm going to be there for him. But at the very end, he said one thing that us media people, we live for the one quote, right? Because it's a story. It's worth a conversation.
Yeah.
And he said, I have no doubt in my mind I'm a starting quarterback in the National Football League. I know who I am as a player, and that's essentially what he said. Well, Zach Wilson, on the other hand, is like, I was so happy for Bo. He just keeps getting better and better. Didn't say anything about himself.
Didn't? Oh.
He just talked about like, hey man, this is really exciting. And now there's all of a sudden this buzzword. So when I lost the starting job, I had kind of like two different things going on. Publicly and interpersonally, I wanted to start my coaching career with, coaching Zabransky as a young starting quarterback. And Chris Peterson was our head coach, who went on to, coach at University of Washington. He won the Fiesta Bowl as the head coach after, but he was my quarterback coach. I wanted to be an extension of him on the sideline, him calling the plays up in the booth. I wanted to be an extension during the game of communicating the stuff that I heard during the series, and then communicate that in a very positive kind of bro type way, right?
Yeah.
So I started my career coaching my 5th year as a player. Now on the flip side of that, the competitor in me and the on-field player, every single day I went out to practice, I wanted to do something or do many things in that practice to prove to the coaches that they made the wrong decision.
That's amazing. Yeah.
But I didn't say it. I didn't have a microphone in front of my face. That was my mindset. It's like, I'm going to go out today and I'm going to prove to them that they made the wrong decision. But when I'm dealing with Jared, when I'm dealing with the room, when I'm dealing with the media, it's all about how can I make Jared Zabransky better? How can I help him? How can I encourage him? There's going to be tough times. Like, am I going to be the guy that, he throws an interception, all of a sudden, nobody told me to warm up, but I'm the quarterback that's on the sideline warming up, and the fan base is like, ooh, is Sanford going in? I didn't do any of that crap, man.
Yeah.
I just want to lean into being a good friend, be somebody who could be a mentor. And also in the back of my mind, like, I'm going to outplay you today.
Yeah.
Never said it.
Like you still have the fire in you.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Gavin, you got anything while I
Where you
open
got?
my phone? If not, that's okay.
I kind of have a little something. I understand how hard, you can't really understand until you've done it, like coaching, especially college when you're saying you have a lot of stuff to do. How do you balance that with family life and everything?
The real answer is you don't.
You don't?
Yeah, and that's why I'm sitting right here. It's game week of week 1 of college football, and 5 years ago there would be a 0% chance I'd be sitting here with you guys right now. I love coaching college football. I love the investment in young people. I love the opportunity to have a positive impact on somebody. I love just the X's and O's. I love the schematics. But the reality is that during the season, you're working somewhere between 100 and 120 hours a week. That essentially eliminates any waking hours for your children, right?
Yeah.
To spend time with them. So I didn't have much. And, the thing that I learned, and this is just me being kind of transparent and raw a little bit, every coach, including myself, when you have a microphone in front of your face, or you're recruiting, a player, or you're talking to a coach that you're trying to bring to your staff, you always say my priorities are faith, family, and football in that order. And you always talk about finding a way to carve out time to be there for your family, carving out time, whether it's 3:45 in the morning to get into the Word and study the Word of God. But the reality is you only have so much energy, so much bandwidth. I'm Big Mike. I'm Big Energy Mike, right? That's what my nickname is. Yeah. I didn't have enough bandwidth and energy or time to really actually have it that order: faith, family, and football. It was football, keep going down, faith, family, right? And what ended up happening to even have a relationship with my kids, the sacrifice had to be on my wife to drive to the facility, bring the kids to me so I could see them for 20 minutes after a practice. 20 minutes, you know? And sometimes that was the only 20 minutes I saw them in an entire week because of the hours of games. You know, I had young kids. They were going to bed at 7:30, you know, as 3-4-year-olds. So there is no such thing as balance. And anybody who tells you that is a liar. I was a liar. Yeah. There is no balance. And so you have to choose this industry knowing that it is like going into the military. It's like being deployed. Sorry, deported. It's like being deployed overseas. Like if you're deployed overseas to be in active combat, you're gone for 6 months. Yeah. That's odd. Like God has a calling for those people. God has a calling for coaches as well. But if you really value the investment in your children, it's really hard. And the only advice I'd say is if you want to chase the big money, which is Power 5 football, you're going to have to sacrifice that time that you invest in your family. There is plenty of opportunity to impact people and be involved in high-level coaching, be it at high school, be it in like small college, Division III. I coached in the Ivy League at Yale. That was the most time my wife had ever seen me. She actually got to a point at Yale where she's like, "Hey, can you go back to work? I kind of miss my me time," you know. So there are great opportunities outside of like the stresses of major Power 5 football. Because the bottom line is, there's a ton of money. There's the cash cow that is Power 5 football, now Power 4 football, is so big that the pressure is on, man. The minute you get that job, the pressure is on.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of what you're saying too. If you're not in football or something else, there is a level of sacrifice that I think people do need to make to a level of like, hey, if you have goals, if you want to get to this goal that you've set out, if you want to be at this level, there are times where you got to make sacrifices, and it's how do you learn to prioritize now the things that are most important before you maybe arrive to something. And there are things where you're like, hey, you are a product of your environment at times, but I think there's so much wisdom in what you have to say. And I also want to encourage people too, like if you have a goal, there are things you should just sacrifice something. You know, like when people go to college, I'm always like, hey, you are either going to sacrifice sleep, friendships, or grades. You can only choose two. One of them you have to sacrifice. And for me, I chose to give up sleep because I chose grades because I wanted sleep and friends. I don't recommend that. But I do think there's like a really good balance. I think where you're at, there are going to be times where you're like, okay, maybe I reflect back on this question, this conversation, and this is a good tension moment to be like, hey, there are some priorities that I really want to hold on to. And it might mean saying no to an opportunity that seems like that would be the best thing ever. But you maybe reflect back on this conversation with Mike and be like, I'm going to hold on to something that matters a ton to me because I don't know if I want to make that quite of a sacrifice. I don't know. There's just a really neat balance there of we do sometimes have to jump through the hoops to get to our goals. Yeah. And where you're kind of in hindsight 2020, you're like, I would maybe, there's some things I might do differently with my family. Yep. You wouldn't change the world. The experience you had was amazing. But I think what also from my seat, it's cool. It's like, man, you worked a long time and you still made time to go pick up your daughter from Wednesday night. Right. You really engaged with your family in the off season. Like there were some things that I think because of what was happening during season that you did your best to make up for it. And, you know, you honestly are like, yeah, there's times where I failed. Yep.
It was
you had the intention.
I think it was so evident to me in this kind of post-coaching era for me that I had a chance to, like I said earlier, I coached my daughter's softball team. It had dawned on me. So my daughter, when I first started coaching her team, was like 13. And she'd been playing softball since she was basically 6 years old. And I realized that I'd never, as a coach, I'd never watched an entire softball game. Like I'd showed up, you know, at the very end, or I'd be there for the first 2 innings and then I'd have to leave. I never drove her to the game, cheered her on, and then drove to her home and had the chance to kind of let her decompress about what happened and kind of go through it. And I'm in the middle of coaching a team, and it dawned on me, I was like, dude, this is so cool. Not only am I having a chance to be at every practice, every game, but like the relationship that she and I are building is so much of a deeper relationship of trust, of love, of transparency both ways, like that I wouldn't have had if I didn't have this opportunity. So, even when I was coaching, you noticed it. Like I would do stuff to, as best as I could, to at times choose my family over my job. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what am I sacrificing if I choose my family over my job? Mm-hmm. I'm sacrificing the quality of what I do for my job.
Yep.
And you always feel that. So then when I'm actually with my family, even if it's like they drove to Boulder or they drove to Minneapolis when I was coaching at University of Minnesota, and they're like, let's meet for lunch. Like I'm talking, I'd be there for 20, 25 minutes during the day or whatever it might be during training camp. And while I'm at lunch, all I could think about is, what is everybody else doing right now? What is everybody else thinking about? So I'm sacrificing the time that I could have been doing my job. And in 20, 25 minutes doesn't sound like a lot. In football time, like if it was right after practice, like that's massive amount of time. And so that's the thing that I found so challenging, so hard, is that, you have to give up something in order to be present for your family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's good.
We got time for maybe just a couple other questions. And one of the things I'm always really curious about is just why you follow Jesus. Especially I think in the sports world, a lot of times it's like I see people follow Jesus and they're figuring it out, but Jesus often is like, he's my solution to the next championship win. He's my solution or my hope to get the next football or sports kind of title or next chip in my success. So I'm just curious as I've watched your journey. That's been something that that it is a priority, whether you were a product of your circumstances or not. But I would love just to hear, you've had success in the college football world, in what you're doing now. But all of that doesn't mean anything without Jesus. And so I want to know why did you choose to follow Jesus? What's some of the story there? I think there's just a really impactful moment where it's like you have a lot of things that people that are in college or in high school are like, I want to be there someday.
Yeah.
And I think it would be not fair to say, okay, there is some awesome things, but Jesus is actually the number one thing, even though these things are awesome platforms.
I think the reason that I follow Jesus today is because I'm a very practical person. I'm very pragmatic. Like part of faith isn't practical, right? It's not pragmatic. It's not like this equals that. Mm-hmm. I mean, faith is, the belief in things unseen, right? But for me, it was practical. Like the application of who Jesus became in my life, like I actually tangibly saw in my life real change. And so growing up, I grew up as a kid of a very strong faith-based family, very awesome mom and dad. Awesome. Very thankful for that. But I don't think that I ever really saw like the power of having Jesus in my life, what that actually meant until I got to college. And I wasn't like a wild kid or anything like that. Like I was a skater in Southern SoCal, doing SoCal things, but nothing too big, nothing too crazy. But it was when I went to college, and especially my first year, I chased everything that I hadn't been able to chase as a high school kid with two parents that had a good thumb on me, especially my mom. Yeah, she was dialed in on my decision making. She knew she's unbelievably intuitive. So I go to college, and immediately everything that I wanted to explore from my high school time, I explored in college in my freshman year in Boise, Idaho. Right, and you can imagine, it's just typical stuff, right? Partied my face off, did all the things, and kind of really went down that road. And not even, I think it was just appealing to me at the time, like because I had never really had a chance to live that life, and all I saw was through like everything that I chased. It's like, that wasn't cool. That wasn't like that wasn't as awesome as I thought it was. And I kept feeling this kind of emptiness, and I kept trying to kind of fill this box with, it might be, chasing females. It might be chasing, certainly alcohol, right? It might be staying up at all hours and kicking it with the boys, whatever it may be. I just kept chasing it. And all I kept finding on the other end of it was emptiness. Yeah. And it kind of led to me being depressed, to be honest. And I'm not somebody that deals a ton with any type of mental health stuff myself, but it's impacted me in different ways with my life. But in that stage of my life, it was just, I was in despair. I was lonely. I was empty. And I was like, where is this leading me to? And for me, I had some random cross country kid that was probably 5'7", 118 pounds, like the least likely dude that I'd be kicking it with, right? As a 6'4", 220 pound scholarship quarterback. And I think I met him at an FCA event that I just decided to go to. And he came up to me afterwards, and there's like a different light in his eyes. He came up to me and he said, hey man, would you ever want to just get together and study the Bible? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Can we do it like tomorrow? And sure enough, we went to Starbucks. We started reading the Bible, and it was the coolest thing in my life because I'd known the Bible. I'd been to youth group. I'd gone to Christian camps, and like in that point of my despair and my emptiness, the words on the page like started jumping to me. And they used to be just words on a page. That's it, right? They became like real. They became like life-giving, and I couldn't get enough of it. And I started really following Jesus for the first time in my life. I'd accepted Jesus probably as a 7-year-old or something along those lines, but it was the first time that I saw like, this is giving me life. This is giving me hope. This is giving me healing, really. And I ended up staying with this Bible study, found a tremendous church in Boise. But it was interesting. I was still in the football locker room environment. At the time, I wanted to be set apart. I wanted to be somebody that everybody on the team could say, like, there's something different about that guy than all of us. And I wasn't that. In the locker room environment, I was still, cursing it up, talking all kinds of crazy. And it was weird because I wanted to do it so bad I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't stop cursing. I couldn't stop talking crazy, right? And I started talking to this same Bible study, this group of guys. I'm like, guys, like, how can I stand out? And I'll never forget. Somebody's like, have you actually asked God to help you? Like, have you ever like actually in prayer said, like, can you change how I speak? And so I committed to doing that. And it was but like a month or two later, I'm like, you know what? The Holy Spirit, this thing's real. Like, I started finding myself set apart in that area. And I had never been able to take out like, the habitual cursing. Yeah. And I'm not saying that cursing is like a bad thing. I just wanted to be set apart as somebody who's following Jesus. I wanted the guys in that locker room to see what was going on in my life, that when I was at these Bible studies. And the only way that I ever saw it was through praying and asking God for that. And I think there's so much in that you might have struggles in this area, in that area. I think we all want to have different things built in, like accountability partners. Great. Love it. Awesome. We want, go together is a Rocky, staple. Mm-hmm. But have you actually asked the person that created this earth, the actual person that created you, knows every fiber of your being? Have you ever asked him to change something? Because that is the power that is that triune God, right? Father, Son, that Holy Spirit, that third one is the one that can work and move in your life. And so for me, I saw the power of the Holy Spirit in my own life. And you could say like, oh, cool, like that's not that big a deal. Dude, it was. Mm-hmm. You're talking about 20 years of a habit that I could not break. And the only thing that broke it wasn't having like the wristband that I'd slap myself every time to drop an F-bomb or whatever. It was me submitting to like, God, I can't do this on my own. Mm-hmm. Holy Spirit move in my life. And I saw it work. And that was to me like, yep. And then just following Jesus the rest of my life, like, yeah, dude, there's been so many peaks and valleys. Like, am I perfect? Heck no, dude. Like, Matt's probably seen me act like an idiot before. There's plenty of people who could see me act like a moron. But I just know that God has ordered steps together in my life and my family's life, even where I'm at right now, which is unemployed. Essentially, God's working, man, and I see it. He keeps opening doors. And sometimes they're the doors that I didn't even want, but I needed, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why I follow Jesus.
Mm-hmm. So thanks for sharing. I love that story. Some really good stuff in that, and we're gonna kind of close up soon because Gavin's got to get to school. Thanks for, thanks for taking some time. But one thing something like that. Grades somewhat matter. One thing I as a coach, I think it's or even just in the athletic world, it's nature of us to kind of evaluate, hey, where can we grow? Where do we drop the ball? How do we continually improve? And kind of sitting in this new season of life, I do just want to take a moment and acknowledge you of like, man, there are countless players that you impacted during your coaching years. Yes, there were probably some that you're like, I would have done that differently. But even the time that I got to watch with CU and how you've shifted in this new season and hearing different stories over the years, I just have to honor you and being like, you chose to follow Jesus and make it practical and figure out what that looked like. And now it's fun to see this kind of different season where some of the players that you have been with have their own families and you're connecting with them, or they're in the, Jordan Love in the NFL and you're encouraging him, coaching him, supporting him. And I think those are the records or whatever. Yep. They're fun. They matter at times. But what really matters is this season that I think you're in, where you're relationally investing in people, your family especially. And so I just wanted to just honor you. This is a podcast where we want to say, hey, people who have a platform that are doing their best to follow Jesus and using their platform for that really matters to us. We want to inspire people to do the same. And so even though there's been moments where you're like, I've dropped the ball, we wanted to bring you on and say, maybe I've seen you be a moron sometimes, but also like you're trying. Yeah, I was going to say, there's been plenty of times. But I just want to just, again, say thank you for taking time to join us, for the ways that you show up in people's lives, the way that you've coached, the way that you lead your family. And I'm excited to see what this next season looks like. From the things I've seen, I'm like, all right, I'm not a huge radio or sports, but I can maybe get in with some of the things Mike's chatting about. So, just again, thanks for being here. Thanks for the way that you follow Jesus and for being a part of Rocky. And we're honored. We're really honored for you to be here.
No, I appreciate you guys, and I'll be watching you this year.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
are you guys gonna be okay at playing each other? Are you guys playing each other this year?
Yeah, week 3.
Okay.
Two.
Jeez.
Come on, coach.
I haven't been around. I haven't been around the Meade Mavericks as much this year.
Okay.
I've been, unfortunately and fortunately, been very busy.
Yeah.
Trying to hustle. And,
that's fair.
Yeah.
And make this career pivot at 42 years old. Not an easy thing to do.
That's
so.
fair. What are you coaching at? Are you doing offense? Overall.
Last year I was really involved because it was like was a season of my life where I had no idea what was next.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to have impact.
Yep.
I want my kids to have a team to root for.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a part of something, like where I was on a coaching staff, and I wanted the same thing this year, but time, man, bandwidth, right?
Yep.
I have so much of it. And so now it's more just, showing up to games, just encouraging dudes. And then, Young Life is a ministry we just launched last night again.
Yeah.
We started Meade Young Life back up a year ago, and then just incredible stuff with that.
Yeah. So cool.
But even if you're, we moved the Young Life to Monday, so we're not going ahead.
You guys did some paint war
last night. Yeah, it was pretty epic. Our areas with Longmont High School, Silver Creek, Niwot, and Meade.
Yep.
We'd love to get Frederick going too. Just an awesome deal. It's a different ministry, right? It's it's Young Life well, Matt. It's a great way to just hang out with all kids. Whether they have a church background or not, whether they have any interest in Jesus or not, just kick it with them, hang out with them, build relationships with them, and then do it in a safe space for them, which is like just their friend's house.
Yep.
And then the idea of Young Life is to expose them to the gospel, the truth of Jesus, and then plug them into a local church.
Yep.
And so you are that first. Like, that's the thing I love about Young Life, is not competing with anything from a youth group standpoint. That's why we moved it to Monday. We were on Wednesdays before, which was tough. I'm like, oh, go to Rocky. No, wait, we're the same night. So we're like, let's go Monday. And once kids start getting pretty serious about their faith, or not, right? They're just, hey, I want to check out this church thing too.
Yep.
Sweet. I got a great spot for you with really cool people. So
yeah,
it's been awesome, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. I know it's, I've been talking a whole heck of a lot, but I'll be watching you and, rooting for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you guys, last year was a tough one, man. You got after us.
Thank you.
Yeah. You remember that game?
I do. Yeah. That was a good game.
I actually didn't think it was a good game.
I didn't play that good. It was all right.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly thought that all of you guys were terrible human beings because you beat us, and it's awesome to sit here and realize you're an awesome dude.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
so, I mean, the competition and the juices start flowing, and
Yeah.
God, those Frederick guys.
Yeah, don't talk to Mike before the game. You're gonna be like, I thought we were friends.
Oh no, we'll dap it up.
Then after it'll be good. Anything that you're like, hey, I want to promote this. I don't know if it's you want to do coach on the couch. We can put some links in the bio.
Yeah, man. Just doing a lot of stuff, content. I'm going to be dropping three kind of videos a week on my own personal accounts. I do listen on Altitude Sports Radio. Also, Monday morning, watch 9 News for the Broncos recap. I'm going to be on 9 News every Monday or every other Monday.
Yeah.
And then I'll be on Saturdays on CBS Colorado doing a football blitz show. So watch those, and then links, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just look up Coach Mike Sanford and kind of go, it's Coach _on_a_couch. Coach on a couch, because that's what I am, man.
Yeah, we got you a
lifestyle.
little couch today.
Yeah, man.
We'll put some links down below.
Or Sanford on a sofa. This might be better.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So you're ready.
Very
You're already ready.
personal
Yeah.
He's already ready for a rebrand. Oh man! And Gavin,
Junior in a Jeep.
No, I wasn't going to throw you under the bus, but Junior in a Jeep. Hey, that works.
Whatever, baby. Yeah.
Gavin, thanks for also joining us. Good luck this season.
Thank you.
And then
Yeah.
whatever happens after high school, we'll be rooting for you.
I appreciate that.
Excited to see.
Thank you for letting me come on here, and thank you for the advice
Yeah,
and
man.
wisdom. It's
Yeah.
great.
No, I'm gonna
Honestly.
be following you. And hey, man, I'm here. I'm around. If you ever need something, man, reach out. And my passion is your age group and just being a good friend, to be honest. So
Yeah.
you need something, just don't text me. I suck at texting. So.
Just don't text.
Yeah, just find me at church on Sunday, or shoot me a DM. Something like that. Texting's hard.
You did pretty good with me though, so I appreciate that.
What? You're mad dumb.
No, that's good. Hey, because I first
His
texted him.
standard is so low.
No, I said to Mike, I said, dude, you want to jump on the podcast? Like a week or two goes by, and I was like, dude, baseball season changed you, Mike. And I think I was trying to get under your skin a little bit, be like, let's see if that gets him going.
Yep.
And it sure did.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a good tag. Yeah. If you call me
Which,
out,
honestly, I
usually
don't
I'll
care.
come back. Yeah.
I have no room to speak because I'm a horrible texter, so you're good.
Texting sucks, man. Like I'm driving all the time. So I like a good old fashioned 1990s phone call.
Yeah, you can.
Like, let's talk.
Let's bring back car phones.
Oh, they were the best.
Honestly.
My 1991 Oldsmobile Bravada had the center console phone with the cord.
Nice.
It was
Nice.
showtime.
That is wild.
Yep.
I'm going to end the podcast with your last, let's bring car phones back.
Let's bring car phones back.
Hey, everyone, thanks for watching. Thank you guys for joining us. We love you guys. Jesus loves you. Peace. We'll see you.
Peace.